Venezuela demonstrations against the government have continued for the past 6 weeks. At least 33 people have been killed so far, and the Venezuelan government has arrested 2 opposition leaders as National Guard troops patrol neighbors where protesters gather. Many fear the movement may be losing its momentum. CCTV's Markovits has this report from Caracas.
Protesters and security forces in Venezuela clashed once again following reports that 3 people were killed during demonstrations against President Nicolas Maduro's government. But despite the recent unrest, after 7 weeks of Venezuela's largest anti-government demonstrations in a decade, protests have started to die down. This week, President Maduro went on a new offensive by sending the National Guard to occupy various opposition strongholds. The Maduro government also arrested 2 opposition mayors on various charges, including inciting civilian rebellion and failing to halt the construction of barricades, one of the most popular forms of protest for the opposition.
There have been more than 7 complaints from Táchira citizens living in San Cristobal against the omission of the mayor in his duties and against the actions led by the mayor to close roads, to not collect the rubbish, which has subjected groups of citizens in San Cristobal to bad odors and dangers of disease for many days.
But some anti-government protesters are convinced that as long as the country's economic problems continue to worsen, the movement will remain active.
What this dictatorial regime doesn't want to understand is that when there are people who've decided they're tired of standing in long lines to buy food, tired of insecurity, tired of humiliation, of being called fascists, when the fascism comes from the other side, there is nothing that will stop this.
Despite the ferocity of the protests, the vast majority of the protesters are from the middle classes. The demonstrations have failed to spread to Venezuela's poor communities, partly due to the popularity of the government's social welfare programs that have helped cut poverty rates. The opposition also remains divided. Former presidential candidate Enrique Capriles has called for a more cautious approach, advocating elections to bring about change. But political analysts say with Maduro controlling all 3 branches of government, regime change at the ballot box is highly unlikely anytime soon. Knowing this, the opposition's radical wing has been behind the confrontational approach of recent months. Calling the Maduro government democratically illegitimate because of last year's highly contested presidential election, the radicals are hoping that the unrest will bring some sort of international intervention.
I would like to insist that our movement has been successful. What we have accomplished in 7 weeks is to remove the democratic mask from Mr. Maduro.
Although the U.S. has condemned Venezuela over alleged human rights abuses, regional bodies like the Organization of American States have so far opposed intervention. Most countries in the region have recognized that Maduro was legitimately elected.
And now with more opposition leaders being arrested over their alleged roles in the political unrest, some fear that this could be a crippling blow to the movement. Markovits, CCTV, Caracas.